Poor village orphan got pregnant for a beggar, unaware he is a billionaire. The slap landed before the words. A hot sting on Ella's cheek, the taste of dust and salt on her lips, and the metal gate closing like a prison door. "Don't come back here," her stepmother hissed, voice hard like a dry mortar. "Your father is gone. This house is not your account." The bolt slid. The compound lights went off. And just like that, Ella, 17 barefoot, clutching a thin nylon bag with one faded dress and a Bible, was on the street. How did this homeless girl become the woman everyone would later see stepping out of a black SUV with tinted windows? How did a night of hunger become a life of overflow? Stay with me, there's a secret hidden in plain sight, and when it opens, everything you thought about power and wealth will shift. Before the reveal, you must understand why Ella never broke. Because when you know the weight she carried, the twist will not just surprise you, it will heal something in you. The night air in the small African town felt sharp, like it could cut skin. The market had gone quiet. Only a few late women packed tomatoes under dim bulbs tied to strings, and a young boy slept on a bench, legs swinging off the side. Somewhere, a generator coughed. A goat cried. The wind smelt of pepper, kerosene, and rain that had not fallen yet. Ella stood there with nowhere to go. Her father had died 3 weeks ago. The man who taught her to fix a broken kettle with wire, to read every label, to sweep the same spot twice to be sure gone. The house, now under her stepmother's lock, felt more like a story than a place. Ella did not cry. She learned as a child that tears made her stepmother angrier and made the nights longer. She swallowed hard and adjusted her nylon bag. She walked. Past the yam sellers, past the women who roasted corn by the road, past the bus stop where men debated football and fuel price like they owned the news. Ella kept moving. The tar ended and gave way to a rough path full of stones. At the edge of town, an uncompleted building stood like a giant with a missing shirt, columns without walls, stairs that stopped where air began. She had seen children play here in the day, then scatter at dusk. Ella stepped in. The place smelt of wet cement and old sweat. She sat on a broken block and placed her nylon bag on her lap like a child. Mosquitoes sang. Somewhere nearby, a baby cried and a mother hushed, "She'll sleep." The sound warmed Ella more than any blanket. She leaned her head against a pillar and closed her eyes. "Are you afraid of the dark?" a voice asked. Ella jerked. A figure sat 2 pillars away, wrapped in a brown hoodie, head low, hands hidden in sleeves. Beside him lay a bowl, the kind of bowl you see in markets where people drop tiny coins after looking away. A beggar. She had not seen him in the shadows. "No," Ella said, heart rattling. "I am just," she stopped. What was she? Homeless? Fatherless? Unwanted? Words felt heavy. "Hunger is louder than fear," the man said. His voice was calm, a tired calm that felt old. "If you are hungry, I have Garri. No sugar. But water is life." Ella swallowed. She had eaten a piece of bread at noon. It was now a long night. "I can share," the man added, gentle. "Sit over here. The wind is softer." Ella moved closer, slow like a cat, ready to run if the ground shifted. The beggar opened a small nylon bag, poured Garri into a plastic bowl, and added water from a clean bottle. He stirred with his fingers and then, with surprising care, offered the bowl. "I'm Ben," he said. "Ella," she whispered. They ate in silence. The soaked Garri was plain, but to Ella, it tasted like kindness. She could feel it spreading through her small body like a candle lighting the corners of a room. "Why are you here?" Ben asked after a while. "My stepmother chased me out tonight," Ella said simply. "My father is gone." "I'm sorry," Ben said. He didn't ask for details. His eyes stayed soft. "You can rest here. This building keeps out some rain. Not all. But some." Ella looked at him. "Thank you." "Don't thank me," he said. "Just sleep. Tomorrow we try again." Try again. The words wrapped around her like a scarf. She slept on the concrete floor, her nylon bag under her head, listening to the night breath. Morning came with a pale orange sky. The market woke slowly, then all at once. The sound of pans knocking, the hiss of oil, the beat of feet, a church bell in the distance. Ella's stomach pulled tight. Ben was already up, sweeping a corner of the uncompleted building with a palm broom he had made from fallen fronds. "You swept." Ella asked, surprised. Where you sleep must be cleaner than where you cry, Ben replied with a tiny smile. Come. Let's go to the market. I sit by the junction. People pass there. They walked together. Ben moved with an old rhythm, avoiding puddles and greeting everyone like he knew their names. Good morning, Mama Ife. How now, Chucks? God keep you, Sister Joy. If words were coins, his bowl would already be full. At the junction, Ben placed his bowl on a piece of cardboard. He sat. He did not call, he did not force. He simply looked up when people passed, eyes patient, hands still. Some dropped coins. Some looked away. Some pretended not to see him, eyes fixed on a far sky. Ella could not sit. Her body buzzed with need. She tied her scarf tight and approached a fruit seller. Good morning, Ma. Can I help you wash and arrange? Please. I will do it well. The woman studied Ella's face, saw the night in her eyes, and nodded. Wash those oranges. Arrange by size. If you break one, you pay with your smile. Ella smiled, a real smile. She worked. She washed, she wiped, she lifted crates, she stacked oranges like gold coins. She sang softly as she moved, small church songs her father used to hum while ironing his shirt. Sweat ran down her back. Her hands turned sweet and wet. By noon, the fruit woman pressed a small note into Ella's palm. You are fast and neat. Come tomorrow. Ella wanted to cry, but she held the feeling like a delicate cup. She ran to Ben at the junction and placed the note in his bowl. For both of us, she said. Ben looked at the note, then at Ella. No, he said gently, pushing it back. You keep this. Start your life. My life started the moment you gave me Garri, Ella replied. We are not strangers. Something changed in Ben's face then, just a flicker, like a candle behind a screen. He nodded, and for the first time, he took her hands and prayed, a short prayer that felt like a door opening. Days folded into weeks. Ella became a familiar part of the market. She washed, arranged, carried, and learned to bargain without fear. She moved from fruit to vegetables, from vegetables to fish, from fish to small errands between shops. She counted cash with clean fingers and kept small notes in a wrapped cloth inside her dress. She learned cost price, margin, and cash flow not from books but from sweat. She watched how the big traders layered their assets, stock, stall space, relationships. She watched how one woman turned a small loan into a bigger table by reinvesting daily profits instead of eating them. Reinvest. The word stuck in her mouth like honey. At night, Ella returned to the uncompleted building with bread, beans, sometimes a little stew. Ben would already be there, sitting on the floor, drawing lines in a small notebook with a blunt pencil. Ella noticed the notebook had neat writings, not random scribbles. Sometimes he asked her questions. How many crates sold today? What time customers peak? Which road had better foot traffic? She thought he was just curious. She answered happily. He listened like a student. Why do you beg, Ben? She asked one dusk, the sky turning wine. You are strong, and your mind is clear. Ben's eyes rested on hers. Sometimes, people are not what their bowl says, he whispered. Sometimes, a bowl is a test. Sometimes, a bowl is a mirror. Ella didn't understand, but his words sat inside her like seeds. The uncompleted building became home. Ella swept every morning. She washed their plates by the corner that caught early sun. She mended Ben's hoodie with tiny stitches. He, in turn, made a raised bed from old planks so her back would not hurt. He fixed a small curtain from a sack so the wind would not bite. He made jokes that landed softly, gave advice without weight, and never once looked at her with hunger in his eyes. His kindness had borders, safe, warm, steady. One evening, rain fell hard. The kind of rain that made roofs drum and gutters roar. Ella and Ben huddled close to the middle columns. Thunder cracked the sky open. The cold rushed in like a river. Ella shivered, teeth knocking against teeth. Ben wrapped the hoodie around her shoulders and took her trembling hands. He started, stopped, then said it fully. Ella, I cannot watch you freeze. Marry me. Silence. He did not kneel. There was no ring. There was only rain, a concrete floor, and a man whose eyes held respect like a steady light. Marry you. Ella repeated, half shock, half-laugh. We have nothing. I know, Ben said. But 2 empty cups hold more water than one. I will work. You will work. We will protect each other. I will never lift my hand against you. I will never sell your peace for my pride. I will never let you sleep hungry if there is anything in my hand. Ella felt warmth rise through her body despite the cold. She looked at Ben's bowl, the rain washing it clean, and then at his face, clean in a different way. She remembered the night he gave her Garri. She remembered his prayers, his jokes, his quiet. She remembered how he never stared too long, never touched without asking, never spoke to break her spirit. She did not think of rings or dresses. She thought of hands washing hands. She thought of roofs built with love instead of noise. She thought of fathers who taught their daughters how to sweep the same spot twice. Yes, she said, voice steady. Yes, Ben. I will marry you. The rain softened, like the sky was smiling. Ben closed his eyes and breathed out. Thank you, he said, as if she had saved his life. They laughed then, soft, unbelieving laughs that rose and rose until lightning rolled, and they laughed louder, 2 small humans under a big wild sky. That night, Ella prayed longer than usual. God, I don't know tomorrow, she whispered, but I know kindness when I see it. I know truth when it speaks. Bless this man. Bless our hands. Keep us honest. Make our little grow. In the weeks that followed, Ella worked harder. She negotiated better. She learned to track small profits with chalk on broken tile, revenue, cost, balance. The words made her feel strong. She began to dream. One day, she told Ben, we will sell our own goods. Not just help others. We will create value. We will build a small enterprise, maybe Accra in the morning, fruit cups by noon, chilled Zobo by evening. We will treat customers with dignity. We will reinvest profits. No waste. Ben listened with a smile that touched the corner of his eyes. You will own things, he said softly. You will own assets that pay you, equipment, stall space, even land. Land. Ella laughed. Let us first own 2 proper buckets. Even buckets can be equity, Ben said, and they laughed again. Then one dawn, Ella felt strange. The smell of frying oil made her stomach turn. She sat down, dizzy. The world tilted and steadied. Her heart raced. By evening, the answer found her like a quiet drumbeat. Her hands went to her stomach. She looked at Ben under the fading light. Ben, she whispered, voice shaking and full at the same time. I think I am pregnant. Ben's face did not break with fear. It opened with wonder. He stood again, then knelt on the concrete like it was holy ground. He took her hands, both of them, and his eyes shone. Ella, he said, voice thick, God just put a future in our house. She laughed and cried at once. He kissed her forehead, only her forehead, and held her like a promise. They slept that night with the rain whispering and hope humming low. What Ella did not know, what no one in the market knew, was that the beggar had never been poor. Not for 1 hour. And soon, the bowl would break. The first thing Hope smelled that morning was smoke from a roadside fryer and the sharp sting of wood ash. Her stomach twisted. She had not eaten since afternoon yesterday. Beside her, on the cold cement of the uncompleted building, Sam, the quiet beggar with tired eyes, pulled his torn shirt over her shoulders like a blanket. Eat, he said, pushing a half loaf of bread into her hands. I kept it for you. Hope stared at the bread, then at him. What about you? He smiled with cracked lips. I already ate. He had not. She could see it. But she took a small bite because arguing would waste time. The morning wind blew red dust across the site. Far away, the market woke up, buckets clapped, traders shouted, generators coughed to life, and yellow buses screamed on the main road. Hope stood. Let me work today. If I work, you won't beg. Sam lifted his head, surprised. Work where? Market, she said. There is always work where people need clean water and strong hands. They walked together, past walls with broken blocks and a rusted iron gate that hung like a bent elbow. When they reached the market, the world grew loud. Women bargaining over tomatoes, boys pushing barrows of yams, a man roasting corn that snapped and hissed. Hope felt both small and brave. She started with the simplest job. She fetched water from the public tap for the Accra woman. The line was long, and the iron handle was stiff, but she pumped till her palms burned. She carried the sloshing bucket on her head, shoulders straight, jaw firm. The Accra woman nodded. "Good girl," she said, handing Hope a tiny bag of hot bean cake. Hope gave it to Sam. After water, Hope swept a stall, then another. She wiped tables at a pepper soup joint and carried crates of soda from a kiosk to a cold room. Each small job paid a few coins, sometimes just a plate of food. Hope did not complain. She moved like a river, quiet, steady, always forward. At noon, the sun turned fierce. Sam followed her from shade to shade, his tin cup silent. He tried to help, but his back stiffened when he lifted. Hope saw it and hid her worry with a smile. "Sit," she told him. "Guard our treasure." He laughed, pointing at the small pile of coins in a nylon bag. Treasure indeed. But to them, it was treasure. With those coins, they bought Garri and groundnut and a small bag of rice. They also bought a bar of soap. In the evening, at the uncompleted building, Hope warmed water in a dented pot and told Sam to wash first. He refused. She insisted. He washed. Then she washed. Then she spread their one wrapper on the cement floor and placed the bag of coins carefully in the corner, as if it were gold. "Tomorrow," she said, "no begging. We will make more." Sam looked at her differently, like he was memorizing her face. "Why do you care this much?" Hope stared at the open sky where a few stars had started to appear. "Because someone must believe in someone. Today I choose you." Silence moved between them, soft as the night wind. The next morning began earlier. Hope went to the Accra woman again and asked if she could fry. The woman studied her hands, then nodded. "Don't burn my oil." Hope did not burn it. She watched the bubbles, listened to the sound, turned each ball at the right time. Customers came, sniffed, and smiled. The woman sold fast. When she paid Hope at noon, she paid a little more. "You learn quick," she said. Hope used part of the money to buy plantain peels for a goat tied near the stream. The owner, an old man with a white beard, laughed and gave her a small bunch of bananas. She shared with Sam. His eyes shone. "What if," Hope said, "we start a tiny trade? Buy, cook, sell. Small cash flow. No credit. Only cash. We grow slowly." Sam tilted his head. "You speak like a banker." "I speak like someone who is tired of hunger," Hope answered. "We keep records. We save. We control our costs. We watch profit. Even if it is small, it is still growth." She tore a piece of cardboard from a box and drew a table with a blunt pencil. Capital, coins in nylon. Cost, oil, beans, pepper, onion, firewood. Sales, morning, afternoon, evening. Profit, after counting everything. Sam touched the cardboard with a careful finger, like it might break. "Where did you learn this?" "My father," she said quietly. Before he died, he ran a small repair shop. He said, "Money is a story you must write line by line." Sam turned away quickly. Hope did not see the heat in his eyes. That afternoon, they found a corner near the market gate, under a leaning mango tree. They did not have a table, so Sam balanced a plank on 2 blocks. Hope borrowed a charcoal stove. She bought half pint of beans on credit, with a promise and a steady gaze, and paid for oil with their coins. She mixed, salted, and started to fry. The smell drew people like music. A bus conductor grabbed 3 balls, blew on them, and shouted, "Hot Accra. Sweet like new love." A schoolgirl bought one and smiled with her eyes. A tired mason came, sat on the block, and ate slowly, like each bite healed something. While Hope worked the fire, Sam worked the people. He did not beg. He cracked gentle jokes. He greeted elders with 2 hands. He offered a bowl of water to wash hands. He watched the coins, counted change, and wrote small marks on the cardboard. As the sun dropped, the plank was empty. They had sold everything. Hope counted the money twice. Profit. Not big, but profit. She felt taller. Sam smiled. "Manager," he said softly, "what is our dividend?" Hope laughed for the first time in many days. "Our dividend is food." They bought pepper, a small fish, and rice. Sam insisted she choose tomatoes with strong skin, not soft ones that spoil quick. She looked at him. He shrugged. I have picked a few tomatoes in this life. At the Uncompleted building, they cooked. The rice steamed. The fish bubbled in the pepper sauce. Hope tasted and added salt with a serious face that made Sam laugh again. They ate with their hands, quiet and grateful. After, Sam washed the pot with sand till it shone like a dull moon. When the night deepened, a far hum of a big generator rolled across the air from the rich part of town. Car lights sometimes slid across the nearby road like slow comets. And once, just once, a black SUV slowed near the building. The glass stayed up. A shape sat inside. Sam froze. Hope felt it. She turned, but the SUV was already moving, melting back into the city. Do you know them? She asked. Sam shook his head. City people, he said, voice light, almost playful. They look at everything. Hope wanted to ask more, but the night pulled them down into quiet. In the silence, she heard her own heart, strong and stubborn. She looked at Sam, at his careful hands, at the shadows on his face. He looked older when tired, younger when he smiled. She wondered who he was before the road took him. Hope, he said suddenly. Yes. If you could choose one thing, what would it be? A door, she said. A door that opens to a small room with a roof that does not leak. A door that I can close at night and say, this is ours. Sam nodded like he had expected that answer. And a key? He asked. She smiled. Yes, and a key. The week moved like a song with a strong drum. Each morning, they set up under the mango tree. Each day, they sold out earlier. Hope improved the mix. She turned the balls with a rhythm-like dance. Sam greeted customers by name, even the shy ones. They added pap to the menu, hot, sweet, easy to serve. More profit. Hope wrote every number. She kept the cash dry, counted at night, saved a portion in a tin she buried under a loose block. Working capital, she said, tapping the tin. We will scale slowly. Sam teased her. Next you will talk about supply chain. Why not? Hope grinned. We must manage stock, reduce waste, and plan for demand. If we keep quality, our brand will grow. She said the words like they were stones she had polished with her tongue for years. She believed them. The world had given her little, but the market gave her one gift, people. People who returned because the akara tasted clean. People who felt her care. People who saw Sam's gentle eyes and smiled back. One evening, after they closed early, a man in a simple shirt came to them. He was neat, his shoes quiet. He stopped before Sam and bowed his head a little. Just a second, just enough to be respectful. Good evening, the man said to both of them. I came late. I wanted akara. Tomorrow, Hope said. We will make more. The man's eyes flicked to Sam again, as if checking something, then he left. When he reached the road, a small car picked him. It was not fancy, but it was clean and quick. Sam watched without breathing. Then he laughed too loud and rubbed his neck. Hope narrowed her eyes. Friend? She asked. Customer, Sam said, soft now. Just a customer. He lifted the plank, ending the talk. That night, under a thin moon, the air tasted like dust and dreams. Hope lay on her side, facing Sam. She saw how he slept, one hand under his head, the other close to the tin of savings like a guard dog. He was not a man who needed much. He was a man who gave quietly, half bread, warm water, empty tin cup. She thought of the day her stepmother pushed her out, words like knives, clothes thrown into a bag that tore. She thought of her father's voice. Money is a story you must write line by line. She thought of the mango tree, of the customers, of the man who bowed his head to Sam for just a second. Something in her heart clicked. In the darkness, Hope whispered Sam. He woke at once, eyes clear. Yes. Marry me, she said. The words came out steady. I know we have nothing. I know the floor is hard. But you gave me shelter when the world gave me the road. I am not afraid of hard. I am only afraid of empty hearts. Sam's mouth opened, then closed. His eyes shone like someone had lit a lamp behind them. He sat up. He searched the floor, found a thin cord from a rice bag, and tied it in a small ring. His fingers shook. "I wanted to ask," he said, voice breaking, "but I feared I had nothing to give. I can give work. I can give care. I can give my life." He slipped the cord around her finger. It was crude. It was perfect. The night held its breath. A far dog barked. Somewhere, a baby cried. Above them, stars leaned closer. "Tomorrow," Hope said, wiping her eyes, "we begin again. No begging. More work. We will expand. We will add bread in the morning, akra at noon, and pap in the evening. We will keep our costs low. We will protect our profit. We will save. We will use our cash flow to buy a small table, then a small umbrella. We will not stop." Sam nodded, but his gaze drifted for a moment to the darkness beyond the broken wall, to a city that glowed like a secret. There was something living behind his quiet smile, something larger than the plank and the pan and the tin of coins. Hope did not see it clearly. Not yet. But she felt it, a door somewhere, a key turning, a future on the other side waiting to open. "Sleep," Sam said. "Manager." "Sleep," she answered. "Husband." Outside, the wind changed, cooler now, like a hand smoothing a child's hair. The uncompleted building, with its rough blocks and open sky, felt for one small second like a home. And in that small second, two lives made a promise strong enough to carry them from dusk to morning. The next morning broke with a strange energy. Hope felt it before she opened her eyes. The market roared louder, the air was thicker with smoke and spices, and people's voices carried sharper notes. Something was stirring. She washed quickly at the public tap and tied her wrapper firmly. "Sam," she said, "today we will sell more than yesterday. I can feel it." Sam stretched on the cement floor, his thin shirt hanging from his shoulders. He nodded, though his eyes carried a shadow she could not name. "Then let us give them what they want." By the time the market clock struck 8, the acra balls were popping in hot oil. Hope's hands moved with confidence, turning each golden ball, scooping with skill. Sam arranged them neatly in paper and called out softly to passers-by. "Fresh acra, hot and sweet. No hunger can resist it." Customers came in waves. Children with coins pressed in their palms. Drivers rushing before the next trip. Women who bought to pack for their husbands at home. Even young men who stopped not only for food, but to smile at Hope. By noon, the plank table was empty. They had sold out earlier than ever. Hope wiped her face with the back of her hand. "Sam, we must reinvest. We buy more beans, more oil. If we double supply, we double revenue. But we must manage working capital wisely. No waste." Sam chuckled. "Manager, you speak like you studied finance." Hope smiled faintly. "I studied life. And life taught me cash flow is survival." Later that afternoon, while Hope bargained for beans, she noticed people glancing at Sam. At first she thought it was his height or the way he stood, straight, with a quiet strength. But then she heard it. "Do you know that beggar?" one woman whispered. "He is not ordinary," another replied. "The way that neat man bowed to him yesterday, there is something there." Hope's heart skipped. She turned sharply, but the women quickly changed topic. Still, their eyes followed Sam with curiosity, almost fear. When she returned to him, she found Sam silent, watching the dust spin at his feet. "What are they saying?" Hope asked softly. "People always talk," Sam said. But his jaw was tight, his hands restless. That evening, after they buried the coins in the tin, Hope leaned back against the block wall. Her feet ached, but her spirit was light. "Sam, do you see it? We are moving from nothing to something. This is how wealth begins. One line at a time." Sam looked at her for a long moment. "Hope, you believe in growth more than anyone I have ever met. You speak of capital, profit, and expansion as if you own a company already." "Why not?" she said, her eyes shining. "Today Accra, tomorrow Pap, one day maybe a small canteen. Then a shop. Then chains of shops. We will manage supply chains, create jobs, and build a brand. Business is not for the rich alone, it is for the willing." Sam's throat tightened. He looked away to the night sky, where the moon sat like a secret coin. The following week, Just as they packed up after another successful day, a man walked towards them. He wore a clean white shirt, his shoes polished, his watch simple but fine. His eyes searched Sam before they landed on Hope. "Good evening," he said. "May I speak to your husband?" Hope blinked. "Husband?" She looked at Sam, who stood frozen. Sam forced a smile. "You are late, sir. The akara is finished." The man bowed slightly. "I did not come for food. I came for you." The market seemed to hush. Even the hawkers slowed their shouting. Hope felt her chest tighten. Who was this man? And why did he speak as though Sam was someone far more important than a beggar with a plank table? Sam cleared his throat. "Not here," he whispered. "Not now." The man nodded once, gave Hope a kind smile, and walked away. A black car waited at the roadside. He entered, and the car rolled off into the city dust. That night, Hope could not sleep. She turned on the cement, staring at the cord ring still tied to her finger. "Sam," she whispered, "who are you really?" Sam shifted but did not answer. Instead, he pulled the wrapper higher over her shoulders and whispered, "Sleep. Tomorrow we sell again. Tomorrow is ours." Hope closed her eyes, but her heart burned with questions. Somewhere in her chest, a small voice whispered, "Life is about to change." And she was right. Because Sam was not just the beggar she thought she knew. He was a man sitting on a secret large enough to shake her world, and tomorrow, that secret would take its first step into the light. The morning sun poured over the market like melted gold, and Hope felt alive. Their little trade was growing, customers returning, and their savings tin growing heavier. But beneath all her joy, a restlessness lingered. She could not forget the man in the white shirt who bowed to Sam. "Sam," she asked quietly as they set up the plank table under the mango tree, "who was that man yesterday?" Sam's hands froze over the charcoal stove. He lifted his eyes, but his smile was too quick, too thin. "A stranger," he said. "Markets are full of strangers." Hope nodded slowly, but deep in her heart, she knew that was not the truth. That day, they doubled production. Hope had risen before dawn to grind more beans, mix more pap, and prepare extra firewood. Customers lined up quickly. Word was spreading. The girl under the mango tree makes the best akara. By noon, they were sold out again. Their plank table was now too small. Hope clapped her hands. "Sam, next week we invest in a bigger table and an umbrella. We need assets to grow this business. We cannot let the sun and rain destroy our stock." Sam chuckled at her excitement. "Manager, you sound like you are pitching to investors." "Maybe I am," she said with a grin. "Tomorrow I will speak to the carpenter. Every successful business must expand operations at the right time." But Sam's smile faded as he looked beyond the crowd. A man was standing there again, the same man from yesterday. This time, he did not approach. He only watched quietly, then turned and disappeared into the crowd. Hope followed Sam's gaze. "Him again," she whispered. Sam forced himself to laugh. Perhaps he loves akara. But Hope could feel it, the secret pressing between them like a wall. That evening, a storm rolled over the city. Rain hammered the uncompleted building, pouring through broken blocks and holes in the roof. Hope shivered as the wind howled, but Sam built a small fire with dry wood he had hidden earlier. They huddled close. Hope leaned against him, her voice soft. "Sam, if we keep saving, one day we will buy a real roof. No more storms inside our house." Sam's throat tightened. He wanted to tell her then, to break open the truth, to free himself from the mask he had worn for years. But the words stuck. Instead he whispered, "Hope, would you still stay if you found out I am not who you think I am?" Hope looked up at him, confused. "Sam, I already know who you are. You are the man who gave me shelter when I was thrown away. You are the man who shared half a loaf with me when you had nothing. That is enough." Sam turned his face away, the firelight flickering across his wet cheeks. Later that night, when the storm eased, headlights cut across the muddy path. A sleek black SUV stopped near the uncompleted building. Hope sat up sharply. Sam stiffened. The door opened, and the same man in the white shirt stepped out, holding an umbrella. Two other men followed him, both dressed in dark suits. Hope's heart pounded. She grabbed Sam's hand. "Who are they?" The man in white bowed again. His voice was respectful, almost pleading. Sir, we cannot keep watching you live like this. The board is restless. The companies need you. Hope's mouth fell open. Board? Companies? She looked at Sam, but he would not meet her eyes. The man continued, his voice urgent. Sir, the oil and gas contracts are piling up. The real estate projects are delayed. The tech engineers in Lagos and Accra are waiting for your approval. You cannot hide here forever. Hope's mind spun. Oil and gas? Real estate? Tech engineers? She turned to Sam, trembling. Sam, she whispered. What is he talking about? Sam closed his eyes, the storm inside him louder than the rain. Then slowly he stood. The men stepped back respectfully. He turned to Hope, his voice breaking. Hope, I am not just a beggar. I am not just Sam. My name is Samuel David. I am the founder of DAV Oil Group, DAV Tech, and DAV Homes. My companies stretch across cities. But I left it all. I walked away from the glass towers and the money because I wanted to see if I could still be human. I wanted to know if someone could love me without the wealth. Hope stared at him, frozen. Her hands shook as she clutched the wrapper around her shoulders. A billionaire, she whispered. Samuel's, eyes filled with pain. Yes. A billionaire hiding in torn clothes. And you, Hope, you loved me when I had nothing. You chose me when the world saw only a beggar. You are the proof I was searching for. The world tilted around her. The market noise, the storm, the whispers, it all crashed into one truth. The beggar she loved was a man who owned empires. Hope's knees buckled. Samuel caught her before she fell. Her tears mixed with the rain still dripping from the roof. You lied to me, she whispered, her voice raw. I hid, he corrected gently. Because wealth attracts wolves. I needed to know if love could find me in rags. Hope shook her head, torn between betrayal and awe. She wanted to scream, to run, but his arms were warm, his eyes honest. Tomorrow, Samuel said softly, I will take you from this place. No more storms, no more hunger. I will give you everything, mansions, cars, protection, provision. But only if you want it. Only if you still want me. Hope's heart raced. The orphan who once begged for bread was now holding the key to a kingdom she never dreamed of. She wiped her tears, looked deep into his eyes, and whispered, Sam or Samuel, rich or poor, you gave me a home when I had none. That is love. That is enough. And in that moment, the cracks of his secret opened into a door, one that would carry her from dust to destiny. The sun rose brighter than ever, but for Hope, the morning felt unreal. She woke up still clutching the cord ring on her finger, her mind wrestling with the truth she had heard the night before. The man she loved, the beggar who had shared half a loaf of bread with her, was not only Sam, he was Samuel David, a billionaire whose businesses stretched across nations. She sat up slowly, her heart pounding as she looked at him. He was already awake, sitting quietly with his elbows on his knees, staring at the rising sun. Good morning, Hope, he said gently. Her voice shook. I don't know if it's a good morning. My head is still spinning. Samuel turned to her, his eyes soft but firm. I know I shocked you. I know it feels like betrayal. But everything I gave you is real, my care, my laughter, my promise to protect you. Money changes walls and roofs, but love builds the foundation. That I never lied about. Hope lowered her head. She wanted to believe him, and deep down she did. He had protected her when she was nothing. He had stood beside her when the world had rejected her. If he had only wanted to trick her, he could have left her long ago. Still, the weight of his secret pressed heavy on her chest. By midday, 2 black SUVs returned. The men in suits stood quietly, waiting. Hope looked at the cracked blocks of the uncompleted building, their small tin of savings buried under a loose stone, the plank table they had carried daily to the market. It felt like her whole life was packed into these broken walls. Samuel touched her shoulder. Hope, you don't have to come with me if you don't want to. We can stay here, live simple, continue selling Accra if that is what your heart desires. The choice is yours. Hope swallowed hard. No. You said yesterday that I wanted a door. A room with a roof that doesn't leak. That dream was small because my world was small. But now, I cannot close my eyes to a bigger tomorrow. Let's go. Samuel smiled faintly and offered his hand. She placed hers in his, trembling, and together they walked out of the uncompleted building, leaving behind dust, hunger, and the ghosts of rejection. When the SUVs turned into the city's rich district, Hope's breath caught in her throat. Roads here were smooth like glass, lined with flowers and trimmed hedges. The gates they passed were taller than houses she had known. Finally, the car stopped in front of a mansion so vast it looked like a palace. White marble walls glowed in the sun, tall glass windows reflected the sky, and fountains danced in the courtyard. Hope pressed her hands against her chest. Sam, is this your house? Samuel squeezed her fingers. One of them. But from today, it is ours. The gates opened, and the car rolled in. Servants lined the driveway, bowing. Hope wanted to sink into the seat. She was still the orphan girl who fetched water for Accra women at the market. How could she fit in here? But Samuel stepped out and held the door for her as if she were a queen. His eyes told her, "You belong." Inside, the mansion glittered. Chandeliers rained light across the marble floors. Sofas spread wide with velvet cushions. Paintings hung on tall walls, each worth more than she could imagine. The kitchen was filled with stainless steel and food piled high in fridges and cupboards. Hope stood frozen. This cannot be real. Samuel guided her gently. It is real. But all of this means nothing if you are not here. Wealth without love is emptiness. Servants approached with trays of food, jollof rice, roasted chicken, fried plantain, fruits, and sweet drinks. Hope's eyes filled with tears. Just a few weeks ago, she had begged for leftover bread. Now, food overflowed before her. She whispered, "God, what kind of story is this?" Later that evening, Samuel led her into a boardroom inside the mansion. A long polished table stretched under golden lights. Men and women in fine suits stood as Samuel entered. Their eyes widened when they saw Hope beside him, dressed in a simple wrapper and blouse. "This is my wife," Samuel said firmly. "She stood with me when I had nothing. From today, she is part of every decision I make." Some of the board members bowed their heads respectfully. Others whispered among themselves. Hope felt their eyes piercing her, questioning her worth, but Samuel's hand never left hers. One of the men spoke carefully. "Sir, the oil and gas contracts are pending. Investors in Lagos and Port Harcourt need your signature. The real estate development in Abuja is on hold. The tech engineers in Ghana are requesting direction." Hope's jaw dropped. She had heard those words before: oil and gas, real estate, tech engineers. They were not rumors, they were true. Samuel nodded. "I will handle them. But remember, wealth is not only about profit margins and cash flow. It is about people. It is about empowering those who have nothing. That is what she taught me." He looked at Hope, and her heart swelled. That night, as she lay on a soft bed in a room larger than the entire uncompleted building, Hope could not sleep. She touched the silk sheets, the gold-trimmed curtains, the glowing lights. Everything felt too much, too sudden. She whispered into the dark, "What if I don't belong here? What if they laugh at me?" Samuel's voice came steady from beside her. "Hope, you belong here more than anyone. Because you know the value of one coin, one loaf, one drop of oil. You will keep me grounded. You will remind me that true wealth is not marble floors but love that cannot be bought." Hope turned to him, her heart calming. He pulled her close. "And remember," he said softly, "the richest man is not the one with the most money. It is the one who finds a woman who loves him even in rags." Hope's tears fell silently, not of sorrow this time, but of gratitude. She had been thrown away by her stepmother, mocked by hunger, hidden under storms. Yet here she was, in a mansion, in the arms of a man who chose her above riches. But deep inside, she knew this was only the beginning. Because wealth brings blessings, yes, but it also brings enemies, envy, and trials greater than hunger itself. Hope woke up to the sound of soft footsteps. When she opened her eyes, she found two maids laying clothes on a polished chair, gowns she had never seen, colors too bright, fabrics too rich. One of them bowed. "Good morning, madam. These are for you." Hope sat up, startled. Madam? No one had ever called her that before. She was the orphan girl, the one who fetched water for coins. Her hand still carried the smell of smoke from Accra fire. Now, people bowed to her. She whispered under her breath, "God, am I dreaming?" Samuel walked in, dressed sharp in a navy blue suit. He kissed her forehead gently. "Hope, today you will meet some of my partners. I want them to know the woman who carries my heart." Her chest tightened. "But Sam, look at me. I don't belong in their world. They will laugh." He touched her chin, his voice steady. "Listen to me. You belong because you are you. Not because of clothes or money. When they look at you, let them see the strength of the girl who sold Accra in the dust, who refused to give up. That strength is worth more than gold." The boardroom in the mansion was filled again. Tall men in suits, women in high heels, all waiting. Papers covered the long table, graphs projected on a screen. Oil and gas contracts. Real estate blueprints. Tech designs for new engineering projects. Hope sat quietly beside Samuel, her hands folded in her lap. The murmurs began. "Is this the girl he married?" one whispered. "She looks too simple," another said. "How can a village girl understand billions?" Their words stung, but Hope kept her eyes down. She remembered her father's words. Money is a story you must write line by line. She had written hers with Accra coins. She would not bow to shame now. Samuel stood, his voice deep and commanding. "Before you speak of billions, let me remind you what true business means. It means feeding the hungry. It means building homes that do not leak. It means creating jobs that change families. And this woman," he pointed to Hope, "has lived that truth. She worked harder than all of us combined to turn nothing into profit. She is the future of this empire." The room fell silent. Some bowed their heads, others exchanged uneasy glances. But no one dared argue. Hope's heart swelled with pride. For the first time, she realized Samuel was not only rich, he was powerful. And power came with heavy shadows. As the days passed, Hope began to see it. The stairs in the mansion hallways. The whispers when she walked into a room. The maids who bowed with tight lips. The managers who smiled at Samuel but frowned at her. At dinner one night, a woman named Clara, a sleek business partner with sharp eyes, leaned across the table. "Samuel, we expected you to marry someone with status. Someone who understands corporate life. Instead, her eyes slid to Hope. You chose a girl from the street." Hope's cheeks burned, but before she could speak, Samuel's voice cut through the air. "Clara, wealth without humility is poverty. This woman carries more wisdom than your university certificates. If respect is too heavy for your tongue, you may excuse yourself from my table." Clara's lips tightened, but she said nothing more. Hope looked at Samuel, her chest rising with gratitude. But inside she knew, people like Clara would not stop. Envy had sharp teeth. Life in the mansion was not easy for Hope. Yes, there was food in plenty, silk sheets, and servants at her call. But every time she held a fork, she remembered eating rice with her fingers on a cement floor. Every time she walked across marble, she remembered sweeping dust in the market. One afternoon, as she watched the maids polish silver trays, she whispered to herself, "I don't want to forget who I am. I don't want money to change me." When Samuel returned that evening, she told him her fear. "Sam, this world is too different. I feel lost. I fear one day I will not recognize myself." Samuel pulled her close. "Hope, never fear wealth. Fear forgetting where you came from. That is why I need you. You will remind me. You will remind all of us." One morning, Hope woke with nausea. At first, she thought it was the stress, or perhaps too much food. But when the doctor Samuel called examined her, he smiled warmly. "Congratulations, madam," he said. "You are pregnant." Hope froze. Tears blurred her vision. Pregnant? She touched her stomach in disbelief. After all the rejection, after all the nights she had slept hungry, here she was, carrying life inside her. When Samuel heard, he lifted her off her feet, laughing and crying at once. "Hope, you have given me more than wealth ever could. You have given me a family." Hope pressed her head against his chest, her tears soaking his shirt. "I once prayed only for food, Sam. But now, I have love, I have a home and soon a child. God has lifted me higher than I could ever dream. But as they held each other in joy, neither of them saw Clara standing quietly in the hallway, her eyes cold, her lips curling into a thin smile. Envy was not finished. The storm of wealth was only beginning. The mansion glowed with lights every evening, but inside Hope began to feel the shadows. Servants bowed, partners smiled, neighbors congratulated her on her pregnancy, but she could sense it. Behind the smiles, envy was sharpening its knives. Clara, the sleek businesswoman who had mocked her, became the sharpest of those knives. She visited the mansion, often under the excuse of business meetings. Her perfume lingered too long in the hallways. Her laughter was too sweet when Samuel was near. Hope noticed it all, but she kept her silence. One afternoon, Hope walked past the study and overheard Clara speaking in a low, sharp tone. Samuel, you are risking everything. The investors in London and Dubai are asking questions. You cannot let a village girl sit in board meetings. She doesn't understand equity, assets, or liquidity. She is a stain on your empire. Hope froze at the door, her chest tightening. A stain? The word cut deep. Samuel's reply came firm and strong. Clara, the only stain in my empire is arrogance. Do not mistake pride for intelligence. Hope understands the foundation of wealth, hard work, humility, and love. That is worth more than your foreign investors. Clara's voice hissed like a snake. One day she will drag you down. Hope stepped back silently, pressing her hand against her stomach. For the first time, fear whispered in her heart. Days turned into weeks. Hope's belly began to show. Samuel treated her like a queen, always by her side, always protecting her. But the bigger the belly grew, the heavier the whispers became. She is trapping him with a child. She doesn't deserve this mansion. She cannot even speak English like a graduate. Hope heard it all. At night she cried silently on her pillow, turning her face away so Samuel would not see. But he always knew. He would gather her into his arms and whisper, "Do not cry, Hope. Remember where you came from. The stepmother who threw you out will one day regret. The market women who watched you beg will one day clap for you. Your story is not a shame, it is a crown." Those words healed her, but they also reminded her, wealth was not just comfort, it was a battlefield. One evening, Clara cornered her in the garden. Hope was sitting under a flowering tree, her hands resting on her stomach, humming to her unborn child. Clara's heels clicked sharply on the marble path as she approached. "So," Clara said coldly, "the little orphan has become queen of the palace." Hope lifted her head slowly. Her voice was calm. "Clara, I did not steal this place. I walked here with faith and love. That is something money cannot buy." Clara smirked. Faith and love? Those are not enough to run oil and gas contracts. Not enough to manage real estate worth billions. Not enough to negotiate tech investments across Africa. What do you know of profit margins? What do you know of international trade? Hope smiled faintly. "I know how to turn one coin into two. I know how to sell Accra until there is profit to buy rice. I know how to grow slowly, reinvest wisely, and never waste what I have. If I can survive dust and hunger, Clara, then believe me, I can survive wealth." Clara's smirk disappeared, replaced by a flicker of anger. "You may have fooled him," she snapped, "but you will never fool the rest of us." With that, she turned sharply and stormed away. Hope sat quietly, but her hands trembled. She whispered to her unborn child, "My little one, even before you are born, enemies are waiting for you. But we will rise above them. Love is stronger than envy." That night, Hope told Samuel everything. His jaw clenched as he listened. When she finished, he took her hands in his eyes blazing. "Hope, listen to me. I built empires in oil, gas, real estate, and technology. I faced enemies in boardrooms, in courts, even in foreign markets. But none of them matter. The only war I cannot lose is the one for my family. And for you, Hope, I will fight to the end." Hope's heart calmed at his words. She realized then that Samuel's wealth was not his strongest weapon, his loyalty was. But storms always brew where envy lives. The very next week, a rumor spread in the city newspapers. The headline screamed, Billionaire Samuel David marries a beggar girl. Is his empire at risk? The article painted Hope as a manipulator, a schemer who trapped Samuel with pregnancy. It claimed she was uneducated, unfit to stand beside him, and a danger to his billion-dollar empire. Hope held the newspaper in her hands, her eyes stinging with tears. Samuel snatched it from her and tore it apart, his voice like thunder. Let them write lies. I will show them the truth. You are my strength, not my weakness. Hope tried to be brave, but deep inside she wondered, how long before these whispers and lies become battles too heavy for us to bear? She placed her hand on her stomach and prayed, God, protect this child. Protect our love. Let no enemy scatter what you have built. And far away, in her old village, her wicked stepmother read the same newspaper. A cruel smile spread across her face. For the first time, she realized the orphan girl she had cast out was now the wife of a billionaire. But instead of regret, her heart boiled with bitterness. And she began to plan. The morning sun painted the mansion gates gold, but inside Hope's heart felt heavy. Ever since the newspapers splashed her face with cruel words, she found it hard to breathe freely. She avoided the boardroom, avoided Clara's sharp eyes, and spent more time in the garden, whispering prayers over her unborn child. But life had another test waiting. One afternoon, the guard at the gate rushed in, looking uneasy. Sir, he said to Samuel, there is a woman outside. She insists she knows madam. She says she is family. Hope, seated quietly on the sofa, lifted her head. Her heart skipped. Family. Samuel frowned. What is her name? The guard hesitated. She said, Martha. Hope's blood ran cold. Martha, her stepmother. The woman who had pushed her out of her father's house with curses. The woman who had mocked her hunger, the woman who had thrown her clothes in the dust. Hope's lips trembled. Sam, don't let her in. But it was too late. Martha had already forced her way past the guards, her voice loud and sharp. So it's true. The little orphan has become queen of a mansion. Martha stood in the living room, her eyes scanning the gold-trimmed walls, the chandeliers, the polished floor. She wore a faded wrapper, but her eyes carried fire. Hope rose slowly, her hands shaking. Why are you here? Martha's lips curled. Why? Because the world says my stepdaughter married a billionaire. The same girl I fed and clothed until she turned ungrateful. The same girl who walked out on me. And now look at you, sitting in silk while I suffer. Hope's chest tightened with old pain. You did not feed me, Martha. You starved me. You called me a curse. You threw me out like trash. Martha's eyes narrowed. And what of it? If I had not pushed you, would you be here today? You should thank me for your suffering, because without it, you would never have met this man. Samuel stepped forward, his voice cold as steel. Enough. This is my house. You will not raise your voice at my wife here. Martha turned to him, her tone suddenly sweet. My in-law, forgive me. I am only a poor widow. I came for peace. Surely in this great house, there is room for mercy. I need help. I need money. Hope's heart twisted. Her stepmother's words were bitter, but her eyes carried desperation. Poverty had worn her down. That night, Samuel asked quietly, Do you want me to send her away? Hope sat silently for a long time. Memories flooded her, nights of hunger, the slap across her face, the day Martha had called her useless. Her heart wanted to scream yes, send her away. But another voice whispered, What will you gain by revenge? Hope sighed heavily. Sam, she hurt me, but she is still my father's wife. If we send her away with nothing, we become like her. Give her something small. Not because she deserves it, but because I refuse to let bitterness poison me. Samuel smiled faintly, pride shining in his eyes. That is why I love you, Hope. You turn pain into strength. The next morning, Samuel gave Martha a small envelope. Take this and build something for yourself. But understand this, respect is the only door that will open here. Martha snatched the envelope, her eyes glinting. Thank you, my in-law. She bowed slightly, but her smirk betrayed her. Hope watched from the balcony, her heart uneasy. Something in Martha's eyes told her this was not the end. Days later, rumors began to swirl again in the newspapers. Anonymous sources whispered that Hope was not truly pregnant, that she was pretending just to tie Samuel down. Some claimed she had a poor background unfit for wealth. Others said she was a village witch who had bewitched the billionaire. Hope cried when she saw the headlines. She knew where it came from. Only one person knew her past deeply enough to twist it so cruelly, Martha. Samuel tore the paper in anger. She has declared war. If she thinks she can break you, she is wrong. Hope, this is where we stand firm. This is where we show them what true wealth looks like, not the money in banks, but the love that does not break. Hope wiped her tears, her hand resting on her stomach. Sam, no matter what storm they bring, we will not bow. For this child, for our love, we will rise higher. That evening, as the mansion lights glowed, Hope stood by the balcony, looking at the city skyline. From dust to marble, from hunger to abundance, her life had become a story no one could have written. But as she gazed into the distance, she whispered to herself, "The higher you rise, the stronger the winds." She was right. Because far away, Martha sat with Clara, her eyes burning with envy, her voice sharp. "She thinks she has won," Martha said coldly. "But together, we will break her. We will scatter her crown before it settles on her head." And so the orphan girl's new life of wealth faced its darkest test, not hunger this time, but betrayal from within. The city buzzed with light and life, but in the shadows, two women sat plotting. Clara, with her sharp business mind and bitter pride, and Martha, with her venomous tongue and wounded greed. Together, they found common ground, destroying Hope. "She is weak," Clara said, her voice smooth like poison in honey. "She knows nothing about the corporate world. If we shake her confidence, Samuel will see she is unfit." Martha leaned forward, her eyes burning. "And if Samuel throws her away, the mansion and the empire will remain open. You want the business, I want the money. Together, we can break her." Their plan was simple yet cruel: spread lies that would not only stain Hope's name, but also shake Samuel's empire. Within days, rumors spread like wildfire. Anonymous reports claimed that Hope was once a prostitute in the village, that her pregnancy was not Samuel's, that she had bewitched him with charms. Markets echoed with whispers. Business partners exchanged uneasy looks. Hope heard it all. Each word pierced like a knife. She tried to stay strong, but in her quiet moments, tears fell. "Why won't they leave me in peace?" she whispered into the night. Samuel noticed her fading smile. He gathered her into his arms. "Hope, listen to me. Lies cannot bury the truth. You are my wife. You carry my child. Nothing they say will change that." But deep inside, Samuel knew, rumors were not harmless. They could poison investors, weaken contracts, and shake billion-dollar deals. One afternoon, Hope received an invitation. It was from Clara, inviting her to a women in business luncheon at a grand hotel in the city. The note was sweet, flattering, and filled with promises of support and sisterhood. Samuel frowned when he saw it. "This smells like a trap. You don't have to go." But Hope lifted her chin. "Sam, if I run from them, they win. If I stand, they will see I am not afraid. I may not know business like them, but I know dignity." Samuel looked at her with pride and worry. "Then go, my queen. But remember, walk with courage. Do not let their eyes break you." The hall glittered with chandeliers. Women in silk gowns and diamond earrings filled the tables. When Hope entered, dressed simply in a flowing gown Samuel had chosen for her, the whispers began. "That's her. The beggar girl. Pregnant and proud." Clara rose with a wide smile, kissing Hope on both cheeks. "Ah, my dear Hope. Welcome, welcome. You honor us." Her voice was sugar, but her eyes were knives. Throughout the luncheon, Clara steered the conversations toward business, stocks, equity, international contracts. Then, with a sly smile, she turned to Hope. "Tell us, Madam Hope," she said loudly, "how would you handle a $50 million oil contract if a supplier defaulted? What would your liquidity strategy be?" The room fell silent, eyes piercing Hope. Laughter bubbled at the edges. Martha, seated at the back, smirked proudly. Hope's heart raced. She knew little of oil contracts, but she remembered the Accra stand, the coins in a tin, the words of her father, "Money is a story you must write line by line." She lifted her head. I may not know the language of millions, but I know this. When you run a business, whether Accra or oil, you must never spend more than you can lose. You must keep your supply chain strong, your records clean, and your workers paid. If a supplier fails you, you find another, but you never let hunger reach your people. Because profit without people is poverty. The room went silent. For a moment, even Clara froze. Then slowly, one of the older women at the table nodded. She is right. Too many of us forget the basics. Another woman clapped. She speaks wisdom. Not theory, life. Clara's smile cracked. Martha's smirk vanished. Hope's voice had pierced their trap. But Clara was not finished. She leaned close to Hope, her voice low but sharp. Enjoy your moment. But remember, empires fall faster than they rise. And when Samuel's empire trembles, the world will blame you. Hope met her eyes, steady and fearless. Then let them blame me. I survived hunger. I survived rejection. I will survive envy. Clara's face tightened, but she said no more. That night, Hope told Samuel everything. He held her close, pride shining in his eyes. You have more courage than they will ever know. You silenced them with truth. But Hope, he paused, his jaw tightening. I fear this is only the beginning. Clara and Martha will not stop. They will strike harder. Hope touched her stomach gently. Let them come. I did not fall when I had nothing. I will not fall now that I have love and a family. But deep in her heart, she knew Samuel was right. This was no longer about whispers. This was war. And in war, the first blow is never the last. The storm broke one evening when Samuel returned home from a board meeting. His face was hard, his jaw tight. Hope, now heavily pregnant, hurried to meet him. What is it, Sam? She asked, worry in her eyes. He dropped a file on the table. Inside were photographs, grainy but dangerous. Pictures of Hope in the market, before she met him. Bent over a bucket of water. Sleeping in an uncompleted building. Her wrapper torn. A man's hand passing her coins. Across the photos was a bold headline prepared for release. Billionaire's wife exposed. Secret past of a beggar girl who trapped a tycoon. Hope gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Who did this? Samuel's eyes blazed. Clara and your stepmother. They hired men to dig into your past. They want to release this to the press tomorrow. Their goal is simple: destroy your name, make you look unworthy, and shake this empire. Hope's knees weakened. She clutched the table for strength. For a moment, she felt the old shame creeping back, the shame of dust, hunger, rejection. But then she straightened, her voice firm. Sam, they cannot shame me with my past. That girl they want to expose is me, the same girl who sold Accra, who fetched water, who slept on the floor. And that girl is the reason I stand strong today. If the world must see her, then let them see her. She is my crown, not my curse. Samuel looked at her with awe. Hope, you are braver than I ever imagined. The next morning, instead of hiding, Samuel called a press conference. The hall was filled with flashing cameras and restless reporters. Clara sat at the back, her lips curling in triumph. Martha stood beside her, grinning like a hyena. Samuel stepped to the podium, Hope at his side. He lifted the photographs high. Ladies and gentlemen, he said firmly, these photos are true. My wife was once an orphan. She fetched water in markets. She sold Accra by the roadside. She slept in broken buildings. Yes, she was poor. But she was also hardworking, humble, and full of love. When I had nothing, she stood by me. When I hid my billions under rags, she chose me anyway. She is not my weakness, she is my strength. And if this empire must crumble because I chose love, then let it crumble. For without her, it has no meaning. The room fell silent. Then slowly, applause began. Reporters nodded, cameras clicked furiously. One by one, people rose to their feet, clapping harder. Hope's eyes filled with tears. For the first time, the world was not mocking her, they were honoring her. At the back, Clara's face turned pale. Martha hissed under her breath. Their plan had failed. Days later, Samuel revealed Clara's secret dealings, bribes she had taken, contracts she had manipulated. The board removed her in disgrace. Her name, once polished, was dragged through the mud. As for Martha, Samuel quietly gave her money to return to the village. But when she tried to stir more trouble, the villagers turned against her. "You threw away the child who became a queen," they said. "Your bitterness is your punishment." Martha left the village in shame, her voice silenced. Months later, in the quiet of the mansion, Hope gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Samuel wept as he held his son, his hands trembling. "Hope," he whispered, "this is more than wealth. This is life. This is legacy." Hope, weak but smiling, kissed her child. "From dust to destiny," she whispered. "God has been faithful." The servants sang with joy. The mansion glowed with celebration. And for the first time, Hope felt complete, no longer the orphan, no longer the beggar's bride, but a woman who had turned pain into power. Hope's story became a symbol across the land. Women in villages told their daughters, "If Hope could rise, so can you." Businessmen quoted her words about profit and people. Investors admired Samuel not just for his billions, but for his courage to love without shame. Hope herself never forgot the dust. She built schools in villages, hospitals in rural towns, and small businesses for widows and orphans. She named her foundation the Door Project, because she remembered the dream she once whispered, that all she wanted was a door she could close at night and call her own. Now she gave that door to thousands. Samuel often told her, "You saved me, Hope. I had billions, but I was poor inside. You gave me wealth that cannot be counted." And every night, as she looked at her child sleeping peacefully, Hope whispered, "Love is the richest treasure. From rejection to honor, from hunger to abundance, my story is proof that nothing is stronger than faith and love." The poor village orphan who once carried buckets of water now carried the crown of destiny. The beggar who was really a billionaire found the only wealth he had ever lacked, love. And together, they lived blessed, forgiven, and free.